really interesting figures just released today. Net migration to the UK last year, 20% lower than previously thought, but...
These were revised figures from the Office for National Statistics, and actually the reason that the net migration figure seems to be less than previously thought...
This important interruption is brought to you by ExpressVPN. Protect your money and your identity. Click the link in the description or scan the QR code here to get ExpressVPN right now and save up to 73% on annual plans today. Right, let's get back into it.
Is because over 250,000 British people left the UK in the year ending December 2024, which is 3 times the previous estimate. So actually, the same number of people came, it's just that more left, and that's why the figure looks
And there's a suggestion there'll be a record 16,500 millionaires are leaving or already left. This is clearly as a consequence of the Labour government's budget. And you just got to think about some of the people who've gone. That footballer, Rio Ferdinand, left saying Britain's is taxed too highly. He went to the United Arab Emirates in August. The founder of Revolut, which is one of our big tech companies, he's gone. These are really important wealth makers, wealth creators. And it tells you that there's a consequence if you raise the tax.
I wonder if it's possible to break down the figures into which month people left, because of course the general election was in the middle of that year, wasn't it, in July? And these are figures for the whole year. So the election was called in May. I wonder if people fled during the election campaign, who knows?
Or fled in the run-up to the budget.
Yeah, absolutely.
And of course, let's not forget that they did say in their manifesto, remember that? They weren't going to raise taxes.
Oh, yes, except a narrow few, like VAT and school fees.
Exactly.
But I wonder if it is just financial reasons that people are leaving.
I think people think nothing works. I think people are worried about the explosion of immigration. Got to talk about that, how it's changed some communities. Some of our inner cities are completely different to the way they were 30 years ago. I think people feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Don't forget, the Prime Minister himself talked about strangers in their own island.
Yes.
But he then withdrew 4 days later.
Distanced himself from the
comment. From his own speech.
But yeah, there is the breakdown in the sense of togetherness and a common identity and things like that. Well, shall we speak to the Assistant US Opinion Editor at The Telegraph, Poppy Coburn? Poppy, good morning. Thanks so much for joining us on the programme. Do you think that people are leaving the UK mainly for tax reasons, or could there be other things?
I think there will be various reasons that are behind people leaving the UK. So the figure that people usually have in mind when they consider the country's in a really bad state, so people are fleeing abroad, it's 1974. That was the last time we had this really massive exodus that was happening over the period of 12 months. Well, this new number that the ONS has come out with is actually much higher than we saw in 1974, which I think tells you quite a lot about not just the fact we do have an increased population, although not increased by that much, but that people are incredibly dissatisfied in the way they were at the middle of the 1970s with the way the government is operating. So I think there's a few aspects to this. As you point out, it's going to have something to do with the budget, something to do with the idea of tax rises. A lot of these people are probably going to be high net worth individuals. There'll also be people who are quite mobile, so have very desirable skills abroad. So I know lots of people actually of my own age group who have been trained to be doctors and who are now going to countries like Australia because they have much better working conditions, so they can earn a lot more money and feel that their quality of life will be better. So you've got those groups of people. I think also there are other issues that are at play here. There's this perception that it's difficult to buy a house in the UK, that crime is rising. There may even be people who are dissatisfied with the way the government is dealing with immigration policy. And this is one of the interesting things about how we measure population. You mentioned before in your introductory segment, we always consider net migration figures, not gross migration figures. So if more people leave the UK, the government will then be able to say, well, immigration has come down. Well, actually, the number of people who are coming to the UK is still remaining very high. We're just seeing a lot more people are leaving, which creates its own problems, right? So again, this is, I think there's another aspect to this story, which is like slightly concerning, which is the ONS originally released these figures 6 months ago, and they were completely wrong. They were wrong by more than 150,000 people. Now, I don't know about you, but I would like the Office for National Statistics to, OK, 10,000, fine. I understand these things are difficult, but 150,000 is an incredible metric to be incorrect by.
Can I just ask you, Poppy, the historic comparison with 1974, that was the year when Ted Heath lost the general election and Labour came to power with a minority government. Were people fleeing because they feared the political uncertainty of a minority Labour government, or, again, was it because of the prospect of taxes going up, which indeed they did?
I think when it comes to psychologically, leaving is rarely something you'll do on a temporary basis. If you think that perhaps it's just a government that is poor or it's a nasty budget that's coming up ahead, you might grumble, I need to leave the UK. But actually going through the process of leaving is quite extreme. I think actually the reason people leave is when they feel that things will not get better. It's not just that the government that currently exists is poor, or the leadership that currently exists from the government, be it the Prime Minister or the Chancellor, is not very good.
Every time you're online, your money and your identity are at risk. Scams now make up nearly 40% of all crime in the UK. That's thousands of attacks every single day. In Britain, someone has their identity stolen every 2 minutes, leaving victims with wrecked finances and years of stress. The threat is real, and you could be next. ExpressVPN is your shield against criminals. It locks down your devices, hiding your personal information and financial details from hackers, scammers, and anyone else looking to exploit you. So whether you're checking your bank, shopping, or just browsing, ExpressVPN makes you invisible to prying eyes trying to steal your money and your identity. ExpressVPN shields your data with military-grade AES 256 encryption. That's the same standard trusted by the US government to guard classified information. This is the highest level of online security you can get. So don't wait for disaster. Secure up to 14 devices at once and get powerful password protection. Real support is available 24/7 because cybercrime never sleeps. Save up to 73% on annual plans today. Every moment you hesitate is another moment you're exposed. Protect your money and protect your identity. Get ExpressVPN right now.
But they think whatever is coming next will not be much better, or maybe it will be, but that will be too many years in the future for people to countenance. And I think that's why the Labour government should be very concerned. What this actually is people voting with their feet and saying, I do not want to live in the Britain that currently exists. I do not have hope for the future under this government. And I actually feel so strongly about that I'm willing to uproot my entire life and take my family abroad.
Yeah, it's quite a statement, isn't it?
It is. It's a 250,000 people.
Yeah.
I wonder if the lag in getting the correct figures is because when people leave initially, the statisticians don't know if they've left permanently or whether they're going abroad for 6 months or 3 months. And so I suppose the sheer number of people leaving has meant that there's such a discrepancy this year when there is. But maybe I shouldn't be defending the ONS.
Well, there's quite a funny reason for why they've probably got these figures wrong, which is they used to do what seems quite old-fashioned. They would stand in the airport with a little clipboard and they would ask people, are you leaving on holiday or are you leaving permanently?
Oh, yeah.
You wouldn't imagine that that's how they actually measure it, but it was.
Wow.
But they stopped doing this a couple of years ago, and they wanted to replace it with a more modernised system. But it turned out this modernised system is somehow worse than having a guy standing there with a clipboard asking you to tell where you're going. But the ONS has quite a few problems to the extent that several agencies have warned not to use data from our own Office of National Statistics.
Amazing.
Which is incredibly concerning because, I mean, obviously we're reading into political tea leaves about this. I remember when Rachel Reeves first became Chancellor and people warned that rich people would flee the UK, and people pointed to figures from the Office for National Statistics to say that only 16,000 or 17,000 people or whatever were leaving. Well, that was completely untrue. Many, many more people were leaving. So it is concerning if we don't actually know what's happening in our own country and we can't gather data on this, because then we can't actually discuss what's happening politically.
Fascinating, absolutely fascinating.
Poppy Coburn, thank you so much for your insight this morning.
Yeah,
Maybe people are fleeing because they don't trust the ONS.
Well, I mean, and Rachel Reeves, of course, in opposition, she thought she worshipped the ground the ONS walked on. Let's talk to a businessman who fled the UK who was well known to GB News viewers and listeners, Charlie Mullins. Charlie, why did you go?
Hi.
Morning, why did you leave?
Okay, I went because of Labour. I went because of Reeves. I went because I could predict everything she was going to do. She's robbing the rich to feed all the illegals. And it will continue. I think there's 250,000 that are left, so-called up till last year. And I think that figure will double this year. And it's not just the millionaires or billionaires. It's really anybody that can afford to leave the UK and wants to leave the UK. I think everyone's fed up with the crime situation, the NHS, the police, the cost of living crisis, all in everything. And I think it's just become now pointless to be in the UK if you don't need to be in the UK.
Charlie, it was the Conservatives that started to tax the rich so much more. I mean, the top 1% of earners now pay 30% of income tax. That's vastly more than it was in the past. It was the Conservatives that froze the tax thresholds. Why didn't you leave then?
Why didn't I leave then? Because I hadn't sold my business then. I sold it, I think it was 4 years ago or 4 years ago now. Yeah, I should have left then. You're right, actually. When I think about it, I should have left. But no, you're right. I should have left then. But now I just got to the stage that I'm not prepared to tolerate. I'm not prepared to put in the pot anymore. I think they just abuse the working class people. Anybody that contributes, they seem to, be attacking them and giving to people that shouldn't even be in the country, are just pouncing off the country. So you will find more and more people will be leaving this year than ever. And I'm talking to loads of people, normal people that have got a decent job and they're off to Dubai or off to Marbella, where I am. And it will continue. I mean, it's mismanagement by the Labour government. It's the threat of all the increases. And when she brings out this wealth tax on property will drop massively and there'll be a massive influx of people leaving again. All this crap, what the government come up with their figures, it ain't happening, it is happening, that. It's a load of nonsense. The real people know, and people are flocking away from the UK.
Just very briefly, Charlie, what do you miss most about not living here?
Nothing.
Oh.
Well,
you must miss something.
I'm being honest with you. You're asking me.
Yeah.
I don't miss anything. I don't miss the crime. I don't miss the safety aspect of it. I don't miss the weather. I don't miss the increased costs going up. I don't miss all the pests that are out there that ate successful people. So I don't miss nothing from leaving the UK other than family. But obviously, family come out here.
All right, Charlie, always good to talk to you. That's Charlie Mullins, who's
Thank you.
left the UK, and it's glad he did. I think he's probably right, more people will go.
I think they will, but only certain people are mobile. It's just not an option for many people. It depends what your job is, depends what your financial circumstances are. But it'll be the very wealthy, the major tax contributors.
Exactly.
And then everybody else will have to pay more.